विद्यानाम नरस्वरूपमधिकम् प्रच्छन्नगुप्तं धनम्.
Beloved Lord, please accept my loving pranams at your divine lotus feet as I place myself at your divine lotus feet. I am truly humbled to share my first experience, and a very precious and personal one, which occurred nearly 6 decades back. I was a young girl, very fond of my papa. My friends and my family knew I could not live without my papa. My constant repetition was, I cannot live without my papa. I cannot live without my papa. It so happened my father suffered from gastric ulcers, and often he would get ill, but it used to be a couple days and he would get back on his feet, and then life carried on. This time around, he got sick to the effect that he did not get better for the next week and the following week. And it seemed he was not improving and things were deteriorating. His condition was deteriorating. I noticed doctors were in and out of the house, and I could not but help just going and seeing him every so often. This evening, I came back from my school, and the expression on my mother's face made me very fearful, extremely fearful. I knew there was something really not right. I went running to my room, kept my bag, and I went straight to my father's room. I saw he was surrounded by doctors. All medical facilities were being provided to him in the house. And he was not really, I would say, as responsive as he used to be. It felt very, very sad. I was extremely fearful because I could not live without my papa. I went to my room. I was so helpless, feeling very, very distraught and sad. A little while later, my mother came to my room and just held me and took me straight to my father's room. Without a word being exchanged, I was walked to my father's room. I knew, I could feel it in my veins, in my bones, and I could not speak to my mother, nor did she say anything to me. And I walked into my father's room only to see him vomiting blood. This was extremely serious for a person suffering from gastric ulcers. The 2 doctors on each side of his bed looked very helpless. I think they had given up hope, and they were insisting on taking my father to the hospital, but my father, being conscious, refused to go to the hospital. It was a very, very sad situation for a young girl like me who loved her papa and could not live without her papa. I could not stay in that room seeing my father in that condition. My mother probably wanted me to just be there to see what was happening. I just kind of moved away and went straight to my room. And as I was going to my room, I recollect vividly that someone had handed me a picture, and the name was Sai Baba, and a packet of some ash called Vibhuti, And for me, it didn't have any value. However, that individual had said to me, this Sai Baba is very powerful. I had that picture in my room. I reached out to that picture and I held it close to my heart, held the packet of vibhuti in my hand, and I just brought it close to my heart, every so often looking at that picture straight into the eyes of Sai Baba. That picture was just Sai Baba. However, I held that picture so tight and kept chanting, I cannot live without my Papa. I cannot live without my Papa. I sat myself on the bed and that was my recurring chant. So much so, my throat was running dry. My tears were running dry. I was extremely exhausted, but I had no concept of time, food, water, nothing. It was now getting to be late hours of the night into the morning. Suddenly, as I was sitting on my bed, the door of my room flung open and I can still feel that tremor. I looked, there was no one in sight. I got up and I quickly closed the door shut, came back and continued relentlessly with that chant of, I cannot live without my Papa, I cannot live without my Papa. So much so, I had no recollection of time, as I said. After a little bit, again the door opened, and this time around it was my mother. Very firmly she came into the room and pulled me by my arm, got me off the bed and just took me. No words were exchanged this time around too. You can imagine what I was feeling at that time because I could not live without my Papa. She took me straight to my father's room. I just kept going with her without even looking where she was taking me. I reached my father's room, and as I kind of opened my eyes wider, I saw my father sitting in his bed. Sitting in his bed. I rubbed my eyes to see whether this was a dream or something real. It was real. I went slowly, cautiously by the side of his bed. I stood there and I put my hand on my father. And there was nothing, no words exchanged. My mother was just behind me. And as I saw my father holding this cup sitting in his bed, I just dropped my head into his lap with tears profusely flowing down my entire body. And I had no life, energy, strength left in me at that time. My father didn't say a word, neither did my mother. I gently lifted my head up, again trying to feel whether this was a dream or a reality. It was a reality. And then my father sipped into that cup and it was hot milk. The two doctors beside his bed had a gentle smile, and so did my father on his face. And the doctors, I could feel that they were happy with what my father's condition was. I was very, very happy. And I could not believe my father became better. And Sai Baba granted him another 2 decades of life. I was so grateful. I can only say this, that my implicit and unbound faith and total surrender to Sai Baba, that is what he was to me at that moment, brought my Papa back to me, because Sai Baba knew I could not live without my Papa. That was my chant. I can only say this, today Sai Baba is my beloved Bhagwan, whom I surrender to. And He is my life breath, my soul, my path, my goal, to whom I owe everything. Beloved Bhagwan, as I address Him, I cannot live without you. I say this with utmost humility and love. Thank you, Swami. Thank you, my beloved Bhagwan.